And it's a 6th-line day. We've come to the top of the hexagram 29, and the 6th line is called confusion. I've noticed these lines of the 29, all of them are very juicy, aren't they? There's a lot of information in them, and today is no different from any of the others. Excuse me. Okay, so the 6th line is all about transition. This is all 6 lines, always about transition. Top of the hexagram, moving on to the next one in the wheel, looking sort of over the hedge to see what gate is coming next. And the transition here is that the whole concept of commitment becomes something totally different. 6 lines can see the whole circuit, and in the 29-6, when you're looking at the circuit, you see that the nature of it, the nature of this circuitry finishes after the channel above, which is the 1333. It's the prodigal, it's where that's that final retreat and privacy, and then it's a throat gate, so there's the possibility to get what has been retreated and focused on out. We did 33 just a couple of transits back. So it's sort of coming to an end. And it's the nature of reflecting on the experience that you've been through, so that that experience, after you've reflected on it, can then be added to the human library of what experience is. That's the sort of essence of the abstract process. That's what the channel of the witness does. That's really where we're getting to with this. So the 6th line, because of the nature of all 6 lines, is saying, will this experience actually be of any value in the library? Will anybody ever know about it? Do I really want to know about it myself? Is it worthwhile? The lifetime learning says the state that exists when momentum outstrips awareness. Now, because the whole circuit is available to the 6th line, there's a sense of I am an energy for this 29th gate. I don't know what's going on. I have all of this energy to say yes to things. I have all of this energy to go through the process, to go through the experience, but I really don't know what's going on. I'm confused about what all of this is for. These are people who will always say to you, why do we have to live this kind of life? What kind of experience is this? Why is being a human like this? Why is that? Why is the process as it is? This is the big question for the 29-6. It's the why all the time. Why? And the nature of 6 lines, as we know, is that they get burned out when they're young, according to the nature of the hexagram. So here, there's 29 gate. The line 6 will get burned out by saying yes to way too many things, to everything when they're young. And they're not as resilient as the 3rd line. Remember, they might be in harmony to the 3rd line, but they don't have the same adaptation skills. They don't have the same airbag that a 3rd line has, because they have to really deeply experience whatever it is that they're bumping into and going through. So they make a lot of commitments, they burn out early in life, and now we get what it says in the lifetime learning, that then their momentum outstrips the awareness. And what this means really is that they could actually fulfill all the commitments, all of them, everything they take on. It's just that they don't know what the hell they're doing. They make all of these commitments and they can actually handle it. They do have that capacity, but they don't know what to do with it all. And it makes them feel very uncomfortable. So they quit and they go up on their hill, and that's where they stay. They wait and they watch. And they see who can keep a commitment, who can't, what commitments are worth having, what experiences are worth committing to. And this isn't the 5th line. This isn't about overreaching and failing. This is about the capacity to really be able to make commitments. But there are so many commitments that you lose connection to the value of those commitments, and you don't then get the opportunity to reflect on them. And if you don't reflect on an opportunity, if you don't get the opportunity to reflect on the experience, then it's lost. The experience is lost. And you have to go through it again. Always that reflection process. And we again learned about this in the 13, when we did the 33. Yeah, if you don't go into retreat, if you don't get that privacy and that space to reflect upon what you've experienced, then the value of that experience goes. So in the exaltation, we have driving blind and, given Mars' energy and determination, often blind luck. The power to persevere makes no sense. So you've got all these irons in the fire, or all these balls in the air, depending how you want to visualize it. All of these things that you've said yes to, and you're trying to control it all. And you can be lucky, and you can maybe hold all of that together. You'll probably also be exhausted, but everyone who carries the 29th, they know the risk of saying yes to things, especially saying yes to too many things. And the more aware you are of how the mechanism works, the more clear you can become about what exactly it is you're taking on. That's all. It's not actually a huge deal at the end of the day. It's just like talking about the emotional system and the mechanics of that. We're able to see the mechanical nature of things. And the moment we accept that mechanical process, we can see it for what it is. And it makes it so much easier to live with it. The power to persevere that makes no sense. It doesn't seem to make any sense unless I can see what its value is going to be to me. Was that right? Hold on, I'm just making sure I haven't got that mixed up in my head. Okay, so the power to persevere that makes no sense. Right, this 6th line, what it is saying is, okay, it doesn't seem to make any sense unless I can see what its value is, but it's not about its value to me. Okay, this is actually, and I got that confused a moment ago, so delete that one. It's about what the value is to the collective. This is very impersonal. It's almost the ultimate impersonal line. My experience has to be of value, but not for me, it's for everybody. It goes into the collective library for everybody to pull from. So these are the kind of people who don't want to do anything unless they can sit down and tell you about it afterwards. They're the ones with the huge photo albums. Well, we don't have those anymore, but you go around for dinner and all you have to go through every experience that they've ever had. So this is that sort of the value that they see. It's because it's of value to the collective. And unless it really is of value to everybody else, well, that's when we get the hesitancy of the 6th line to want to be involved. In the detriment, we have a tendency and confusion to withdraw rather than accept the condition and continue to persevere. The power in confusion to caution rather than saying yes. And of course, they're always pulled out. Oh, it's very hard for the 29-6 to be left alone on the hill. And what they end up doing in order to avoid coming down from the hill is they use their 6th line gift to point out who will say yes. These are people who can really step out. They can do it to the point where they literally give up on their life. Remember, I told you about the part that gate 29 has to play in the end of life process. So these are the kind of people who can start dying before they've actually sort of reached that point. They can die before they live almost. It doesn't matter in a way how that process of the end of life comes for them, because they've already stepped out. And if you are close to someone who has the 29-6 and they're in that process, then you are sensitive to it, then you can sometimes feel that because they withdraw, and it's a very, very deep withdrawal. It's the withdrawal from the whole life process itself. 6 lines are about the mutative process. It's all the transitionary process of being a 6th line. Mutation can be positive and negative. You can get to the most negative level of the 6th line, like the blaze of glory that we find in the gate 28, line 6, and you go burning yourself out into a flaming end. But keep in mind as well that this has all got to do with the nature of your individual design. And it's not just the fact that this line may appear in your chart. There will be other sorts of factors, other compensations. So please look at the bigger picture, look at the holistic picture of your chart and the holistic nature of how it all fits together. Because it's not just about having this and, oh, you're withdrawing, therefore you're going to die tomorrow, because that's obviously nonsense. So just please, look at this as It's a small part. It's a little sprinkling that I offer to you to take on and play with and experience. So 29s, they need to understand that life is difficult. We've come through all of these lines and heard about this as we've gone through it, but it doesn't mean that life is bad. You know, it doesn't mean that being who you are is not capable of dealing with the difficulties that life offers. I remember hearing once, I have no idea who said this, but it was that you never get more than you can deal with, but you never get less either. And that sort of comes out in this 29. Now you have the capability, you are equipped to deal with the difficulties that saying yes to life brings. Ra said that what was so interesting about the nature of commitment in terms of the wheel is that when you finally figure out what a proper commitment actually is, you discover that it's the need for sexual intimacy. It's a kind of funny transition in a way. You go through this whole process of what's the most important commitment I could make in terms of a collective value? What's the most important thing I can do? And then the 29-6, you know, it's looking over the hill and the first thing it sees is, oh, you have to be able to make an intimate connection with somebody. That's the next step. That's what we come to. And it's a kind of interesting commitment when you look at it like that. So the 29-6, it goes into the 59-1. And the 59 is the gate of sexuality. So it's 29-6 is saying you're confused. You don't know whether your body is worth anything. Go and make love to somebody. Go and find out how incredible it is to have a body. And then we come to the grounding in gate 30, line 6, which is called enforcement. So when you get to the 6th line, again, you're looking through that whole abstract process and you're seeing here that the only feeling that is worth holding on to is the feeling that can lead to a valuable experience for the collective. And of course, the very word valuable is relative. When you have confusion about what's valuable and what isn't, about what to commit to and what not, when momentum is outstripping awareness, I guess it could be very useful to have the enforcement of a feeling grounding you. And the 30th gate is in the solar plexus, so it's got that emotional wave. It's a powerful motor. And having the enforcement of the feeling with that motor energy behind it, maybe that could actually, I should say motor energy, maybe it could slow things down actually. You know, there are so many mentions of the word caution in gate 29. It's really interesting when you look at it, isn't it? Because it's the gate of saying yes, it's the gate of commitment. And yet that word caution, but it's all the way through it. So it's enforcing that feeling of part of the experience is caution. Maybe part of the nature of confusion is not enough caution. Maybe that could bring a grounding. What do you think? Does that feel correct? Does that resonate with you? If you have any comment on that, would you like to share it with the collective? I'd love to hear it or read it. Mercury is on the move today, later on transiting into gate 4, which we're a bit familiar with as it was our last sun gate. And this is, it goes in at 1631, and this is youthful folly, of course, the gate of formalization, this logical gate in the ajna, with the need to understand things, to answer the doubts and questions that have come through from gate 64. It's a collective gate, and it comes up with concepts that may or may not be right, that have to be tested over time, have to be verified. So how is this playing out in your experience? Are you aware of anything happening? Are you tuning in to people talking about an experience they've had that they had to repeat, or that they didn't feel had any logical basis to it, or maybe you have a hesitancy to share your answers until you've tested out whether they're correct or not? The moon is still in the individual solar plexus gate 22. This is the gate of openness, which demands that its moods are honored in order for there to be a potential for emotional openness and graceful social interaction. And you can stick an or not on there if you want. Staying in the solar plexus, the moon then moves to the collective abstract gate 36 at 12:10. This is the darkening of the light, the gate of crisis. And it's part of the experiential way, which tells us a lot. It's governed by cycles for a start, so every experience has a beginning and an end. The rule of cycles says that decline is a natural but not enduring stage. So it's this too will pass, you know. The solar plexus is an emerging awareness center. It's not quite an awareness center yet, and for humans, it will always be a motor. But being the potential awareness center, it shares with the ajna and the splenic a sort of a fear quality. Its nerves is how we really experience it through the solar plexus, anxiety through the ajna and fear through the splenic center. But here we find nervousness in this gate 36, and it's the nervousness of seeming inexperienced. It's a gate that just wants experience more than anything else. It's a sort of a blind devotion to experience, and yet it carries this nervousness or this fear that it will be seen as being inexperienced, and there's a vulnerability around that. It's a bit like the gate 48, which is its mirror coming out on the splenic side, which is the gate of depth, having the fear of being seen as shallow. It's this gate of experience, having the anxiety or the nervousness around being seen as inexperienced. So these are how these things play out. So surrendering to the ups and downs of life, that brings some maturity eventually. And then there's an ability to learn from and handle crisis with emotional clarity. And then next, we have the G center gate 25 at 21:12. This is the gate of innocence, the gate of the spirit of the self. And this is an impersonal love, a universal love, unconditional love. And it flows towards all living things equally. And it can express as a surrender to one's own self. This gate is also still being visited by Neptune, which means that one might have a little fuzzy quality to it. Maybe you are not experiencing as clearly as you once did, or maybe you're trying to tap into those energies around gate 25 and just can't see it clearly. And this could be why. When Neptune moves out in a little while, then gate 25 will have its place back again. And the last gate in today's report is the logical Ajna gate 17, which the sun moves into at 6:16 tomorrow morning, BST. The gate of opinion, where we have the ancient law that those who wish to rule must know how to serve. And we saw in the fourth gate that there is a need to understand how things work. This is logic. This is what logic is driven by. There is an ability in this gate 17 to see into the functioning of particular patterns. And the anxiety in this Ajna gate is of being misunderstood, of the opinions that we carry lacking sufficient detail, or of missing out essential facts that undermine the value of our opinions. So that's our transit report for today. Tomorrow we move into a new gate. As I said, this is the gate of sexuality, also called dispersion. This is gate 59. This is what saying yes gets you. So we'll have fun with that one. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you very much for joining me. And yeah, go gently, love yourself. Be careful what you say yes to. Hang on in there. Everything's gonna work out the way exactly as it should. Take care. Lots of love. Bye-bye now.